Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of my Mega Brutal Guide series. Today we'll be doing the Civil Servant and Saffron fields, so I'll be doing every single Governor and Saffron fields first as a little introduction to the Governor. So let's take Civil Servant, the advisors I said last time, Doctor. A little follow-up, there's a few things I think I forgot to talk about. One of them is the corruption consultant. You never want to take anything but additional funds, so funding only from the charities. The other thing just drives your corruption up like crazy, drives your inflation up like crazy. The corruption consultant doesn't solve that issue. So here, like I said last video, the celebrity. Here was the tax collector. Now the military recruiter. I forgot to talk about last time. Apparently I also got some feedback from high-level players. The war hero is indeed actually fine. You can also play the war hero here. I prefer the chef. The military recruiter is also fine. I think it's 2 tours of duty for free, so a long extension for free, but you can't extend past that. I guess that's also okay, but I prefer the chef and the logistics expert. Alright, so then let's get right into it. Okay, now, so basically when every single map we're going to be doing the same thing. So we'll think about where will the insurgents spawn, what are the zones that I will allow them to link up, and how can I set up defensive lines based on where the camps spawn. So generally, the first things first when setting up your HQ. If you wanted to set it up here, don't do that. Why not? So basically this zone has a lot of population in it, and the more population the zone has, the longer it takes obviously to stabilize it. You require more supporters. There's usually lots of hostiles in it that you need to reduce first as well. That's one thing. Another thing is how big a zone is, so its actual physical size in the game also is a factor in how long it takes to stabilize the zone. So what you also want to think about is how will my intel gathering work when I select an HQ. So for example, if I select an HQ here, these 5 zones around it will obviously be the first to have district representatives assigned after my HQ has it assigned, and after that it'll slowly start branching out in this direction. If we start here on the other hand though, notice after my several first zones I can still branch out in lots of directions. Meaning I can get a... oh, whoops, that was not what I wanted to do. Meaning I can basically gather intel much faster and much more efficiently. Another important thing to consider is, so in this map, right, the insurgents will most likely spawn here. Like over 90% of the time they only spawn here. I've tried it out. So basically what we'll usually be defending is these 3 zones. If they spawn here, they do all their stuff here, they take this, and this. It's fine, these 6 zones, they can have those. And if we defend this line here, we're fine. We're completely fine. We can focus on stabilizing the rest here. Exactly, so if I place my HQ here, I will have a really good defense of this zone, which means then I can easily also defend this zone. I can just get some main roads, and we'll be completely fine. So that's why I always start with my HQ here on this map. And the first thing, so basically the opening build order also, this is a very cookie cutter build order. It's the one I use in most cases. The civil servant is basically a governor with no special function, so I think it's a very good first episode or second episode to showcase just a cookie cutter build that I will use for quick stabilization. So you want to start off obviously with district representatives. Now, first thing here, people used, like I see people get effective procurement here. Don't do that. It's not good. It increases your civilian, I mean it is good, but it's not good in the opening in my opinion. I mean you can obviously do it and still win consistently, it's no problem in my opinion, it's just not as good. There's other things, for example anti-corruption 1. It increases the cost of your civilian initiatives by 10%. It doesn't give you any support level, and to my knowledge it also doesn't reduce global hostility. Now, anti-corruption 1 on the other hand, while costing 3 times more, gives you a global support level boost. I'll get to that in a moment. +1 to your global support, and it reduces global hostility by 1. Meaning obviously that insurgents are, or not insurgents, but Neutrals are much less likely to become hostile, and hostiles are much more likely to become neutral. So let me go over the core concepts of the game real quick. So basically, obviously, the goal of the game is to stabilize every single zone. But what does that actually mean? So we can see here how many supporters we need to stabilize the zone. So it has a total of around 17,500 population, and it has 662 hostiles. So first things first, this number here, how many supporters are required, is influenced by the number of hostiles. So the more hostiles you have in a zone, the higher the amount of supporters required to stabilize it. Okay. Next, how do we get supporters? So basically how the game functions is you have these neutrals. Obviously in almost every single map, almost every single zone will have a majority of neutral population at the beginning. Some will have very high hostility, but there will still be a minority compared to the neutral population. So our support level does the following. Our support level converts neutral population into supporters, and by doing so it drops again. So basically you can think of support level as a jug filled with support level, and you can take support level out of the jug, which empties it, and in return you get supporters. So if your support level is positive in a zone, it will transfer neutrals to supporters. If your support level is negative in a zone, then what's going to happen is the exact opposite. Supporters will start turning into neutrals. Now there's a second stat called hostility. It does the exact same thing, just between neutrals and hostiles. So if a zone's hostility is positive, neutrals will turn into hostiles. And if a zone's hostility is negative, hostiles will turn into neutrals. So our goal is to get as much negative hostility and as much positive support level. Okay, so I think so far that should be clear. So basically back to this, anti-corruption 1 does exactly that, increases global support level. We'll get to, oh, you're right, I have to explain that as well. So we're going to get that. And it reduces corruption by 10%, corruption risk, excuse me, by 10% every year. Now the way corruption works is very simple. So you have a corruption risk. Now the game just started obviously, so you don't see it yet, and you have corruption. Now in Mega Brutal your corruption will in practicality always be equal to your corruption risk. In Brutal and Under, this corruption line slowly moves up to the corruption risk. In our case, we'll be managing corruption risk directly, because our corruption will always be equal to our corruption risk. So what Anti-Corruption 1 does is per year it removes 10% corruption risk. Pretty good. Now, after that we'll go for service discussions. Very important. So we have 3 branches here. On one hand we have water supplies, which does a pretty decent job in increasing local support level and reducing local hostility, but it has a high corruption factor. It's very corrupt. And basically you can think of corruption as an additional cost that is incurred by an initiative. If it has high corruption, down the road it will cost you to remove that corruption. And basically, if you cure more corruption faster, it'll cost you much more faster. Next we have the medical supplies. So basically what they do is they give decent support level, but they have an incredible reduction in local hostility. So basically once they're once they get built in a zone, they will reduce local hostility by a lot, usually starting the transfer from hostiles to neutrals. And obviously, as I said, if you reduce the amount of hostiles, you reduce the amount of supporters required to stabilize the zone. What is the strength of School? School branch is incredibly fast to roll out. Doesn't have much inflation, doesn't have much corruption, but also accordingly doesn't have that much support level, and reduction in hostility is the other two do. Now I think objectively the best one is medical supplies. I think most good players agree on this. You can obviously also open education, win consistently, it's no problem, but you're just making it harder on yourself. Medical supplies in my opinion is the best. So basically this is the basic opener, these 4 initiatives in this order. Okay. Now one more thing I would like to touch on is the support level. This is the local one. So there are 2 types of support level, global and local. So local support level is when initiatives roll out, they increase local support level. For example, the healthcare that we bought. Now you have a second thing called global support level, and basically what global support level does is all zones pull support level from the global support level at a very slow rate. So for example, if later we will purchase universal justice. Universal justice gives us global support level. It gives us 3 global support level. So basically what that means is slowly over time, given time goes to infinity, if we just let the game sit there after buying universal justice, eventually in every single zone you would have 3 global support level would be converted to 3 local support level, and then that 3 local support level will be converted to supporters. But it's a very slow process. So basically our goal, or in my opinion the best way to stabilize quickly in as many zones and large areas, is to primarily rely on global support. So universal justice, anti-corruption is good, telecommunications is decent, and just get this local support for a small boost and to take care of concerns. Right, so now we'll just let our inflation tick down. Now what next thing we'll buy is outreach office for simple reasons. We want to get universal justice instantly after that. This one always costs 7, this one you wait until it costs 4. First we want to get universal justice so we can start converting that global support to local support as soon as possible. And the second reason is district representatives gets rolled out in 2 zones at the same time. These little hammers that you see here, they are, well, you can't see it here, they are the initiatives that are being rolled out. So you can see here now in these 2 zones, we have, we're rolling out district representatives. Now on Saffron Fields on Mega Brutal, the insurgency hits much earlier obviously than other maps, otherwise the map would be too easy, it was deemed. So on Mega Brutal the insurgency hits basically almost instantly, usually it hits around June 2003. Or May 2003. Okay, so military tab. I usually just go for these 2 coalition soldiers. We do not go for regional census. The reason for that is we will go for interpreters, guides, and human terrain systems, so we can specify by ourselves in which zones we want to gain corruption. I want to gain intelligence. Now, be sure to always spam the region key. Very good, you can instantly see, you can just quickly hover with your mouse, or if you're mobile it takes a little longer, and check for concerns. So what we're going to do is, we want to scout this area here. This is what's important to us because we think that the camp will spawn there. We want to, if possible, protect this zone as well, but our goal will be to protect these zones here. Okay, so let's wait for the insurgent spawn. Now let's just get PR to double the global support level. And as suspected, the camp spawned in one of these zones here. Let's get this and this. So basically these upgrades both decrease how much the coalition soldier antagonize the locals. And that, in this case, antagonizing locals means creating hostile population. So if they're in a zone just standing around or fighting, they will create hostiles. This reduces that by a large amount. In many cases, in my opinion, relevant, especially if you're fighting in zones that you want to stabilize rather soonish. And it also basically makes intelligence gathering instant in anything that isn't mountainous zones with so remote zones with dirt tracks. Exactly. So keep always checking concerns. You can see now the local support level here is 4.0, despite only the only things we set up is 1 medical station or 1 medical initiative. That's all from the global support I was talking about that we got from universal justice. So we can see now concerns health, so let's get some healthcare. Perfect. Beautiful. So in these situations they will always flee to the zone where the camp is. We know the camp is here, we don't really care about it. We can just let it sit there. Let's grab some more intel on these zones here if possible, and just keep on stabilizing. Now, another great reason to go healthcare is vaccines. So vaccines cost almost no inflation, cost almost no corruption, give good support level, very good reduction in local hostility, and the best thing about them is they can be built without intel. So if I go here, now first it will obviously roll out into intel zones, but then it will instantly start rolling out in no intel zones. It will have a slight penalty, but that's fine. Okay, now we see jobs. We can go for jobs, it's still early enough. Usually I try to match the job with this zone type. So for example, this zone here is rural, as we can see. and basically we save money if we just go for livestock development. Also, the game is smart in that sense, and it will prioritize. So for example, livestock development gives a huge bonus to rural zones, but less so in urban and remote, if I remember correctly. So for example, the game will always try to first roll it out in all available rural zones. So for example, if this was an urban zone and we bought rural livestock, even if this concern was at 99%, I believe the game would prioritize rolling the job out in all urban zones first if it's an urban job. So for example, development bank. That's why we want to go for this. We can get it. Inflation is too high. Let's wait a little. Let's see how this keeps on developing. So this is all completely fine. We have no problem with this. These guys are scouting. Okay, let's get this for 4, and then let's start getting roads. We obviously have to wait. Okay, that's perfect. Leave this guy here then. Okay, now another very important thing in combat. You see how the surgeons at one point stopped floating around and just locked positions and started running out. That's the point where the fight is won. At this point, they've started their retreat animation, so I can just move this guy away. There's no point in him supporting. Let's move him over here. Now basically, let's move him over here. While soldiers are traveling, by the way, they do not use up any deployment time. So if you want to basically, and there's nothing to do, you can just send your troops on long adventures. Now we're just gonna wait for this guy to come. Okay, we have $21. We have no concerns. We wanted to get roads. Let's get that. And now basically we've gotten everything we want. So now what we're gonna get is just more global support in the form of all 3 anti-corruptions. They're great upgrades. Get them. Like if you have nothing to spend money on, best thing to spend money on until you get all of them. We're going to get strategic communications for an extra boost, and you don't even need this now actually, it's completely fine. Okay, there's a surprise attack there. Let's see. Question is now, I think we'll just get another one of these. Send this guy over there, send this guy here to support this guy. Okay, this is fine. We'll let them have this. Okay, now they want education. Get that actually. Just defend here. This guy's standing around doing nothing. He can go scout. Here, this guy's gonna win. By the way, if you're on PC, I think on mobile as well, you can do this. You can check insurgent strength and your own unit strength. Yeah. Okay, so now we have a very interesting issue. So here we have, maybe I shouldn't have actually gotten this. This might have been a mistake. I should have first checked if they've even been implemented here. No, they haven't. So maybe it's even a level 1 concern and I just shot myself in the foot for no reason. Anyway, getting water now would be a very, very grave mistake for the very simple reason there's a mechanical job protest in this game, or service protests if it's the other way around. If you get too many services with not enough jobs, you trigger the job protests, and vice versa. If you get too many jobs without getting any services, or too few services, you trigger service protests. So when does this trigger? So basically you can get 5 services without penalties. You can go 5 services, 0 jobs. That's fine. That won't trigger protest. The problem is if you go up to 6, which we would have to now, you would need at least 2 jobs. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to get this, because I can, and it's a really good upgrade. Then I'm going to wait for inflation to drop a little bit. Then I'll most likely get either vocational training, most likely the land rights, because it costs a little less. And then I'll get water supplies to avoid said job protests. Okay, let's put this guy over here. Now, one important thing is roads. Why are we getting roads? So, roads do several things. This is very important. I mentioned in the first video that I love roads. I love getting them. By the way, here's what I said before about corruption. Notice how the corruption risk and corruption are basically always identical at all times. Managing corruption risk on Mega Brutal, never corruption. What did I want to show you guys? Yeah, right, about roads. So, here there's a tab called accessibility. And basically you can see it there in the top right of that mini screen. You can see the accessibility values of all the zones. So basically if a zone has highways, for example this zone or this zone, They usually have pretty high accessibility. And roads increase this accessibility stat. So what does it do? On one hand, it gives us very slight increase in support level, and that's not why we get it. What it does is it improves rollout speed of initiatives. It improves speed of your units, so how many logistics they need or how many turns they need to travel. And most importantly, soldier strength, roughly, this isn't 100% exact, but it's a rule of thumb, soldier combat strength is multiplied by zone accessibility. So for example, if my soldiers were to fight in this zone, they would be at roughly 60% of their maximum, or of their base unit strength. Here they would be at around 37%, 77%, 44%, you get the idea. Now roads increase this accessibility stat. It's very, very useful. Increases your combat strength, it increases how fast initiatives roll out, and it increases unit movement speeds. So that's why we always want to get roads. They're really great. They're basically a lifesaver. They're required on Mega Brutal. Okay, so this guy's doing nothing. Send them over here, and these guys should be fine. Okay, now this came up pretty early, so in this case I will go for the subtle pressure. Usually in this scenario you can think of it like this: Counter-Strike gives you an immediate effect, but it costs you a lot of money. So for example, now it costs me 8, next time it'll cost me 10, after that it'll cost me 12. So you get the idea, it always goes up by 2 steps. Subtle pressure doesn't have an immediate effect. It has an effect very late into the game, usually at the point where I don't really care anymore. So basically for me this option is more like, hey, leave my money alone. I just pay $11 once, I don't have to pay you again. I don't really care about reducing insurgent capability that much in that case. If you have the money, in my opinion, this is the best option to sustain it especially. If not, just go for subtle pressure so that your money is left alone. Let's get another job, and then we should be able to get this without triggering protests. But I'm also myself still learning. I think I will actually wait until this guy kicks these out like this. And I actually think I'll be greedy and I won't get airstrikes yet. I'll just get more anti-corruption. Should be fine. This guy's gonna get pushed out. Yeah, we're fine. Coalition soldier is over. The deployment is over soon. That's fine. Okay, let's get some strategic communications now. Let's move over here. Now we're nicely stabilizing. We are very low. Look how low this is. 5 zones. If they're remote, completely fine. If they have low population, completely fine. We're not losing anything. Let's check if this is okay. This is a level 2 concern. That's actually kind of annoying. Let's send this guy home. Just wait for him to... Okay, I was maybe a little overzealous now. I might have to actually extend him. Okay, no, you're kicked out. Perfect. Let me just get in case one more job. And let me get sanitation. This should be fine. And at this point the game is over, we're just waiting now. Okay, now I already have a lot of money. Can actually just start going for military at this point. So this is the point where I usually start going military. When I have all my anti-corruption up, when I've started to stabilize zones, when I have the necessary road infrastructure required. At this point I actually will go airstrikes just so these guys don't recapture that zone. Okay, well, unfortunate, still recaptured it. Even though I'm pretty sure my combat strength is higher than theirs. Okay, it isn't. Okay, at this point I think we're just gonna let them have this. And accept that that's lost. That's fine. Actually, let me send you guys home. Now we're getting nice stability. It's increasing our income by a lot. We have all the anti-corruption we need. We can just start wasting all our money, or not wasting, but well, that was unfortunate. Didn't notice that. Garrisons, by the way, I look at as stationary national soldiers. In this game, I didn't think there was a need. Could have gotten it much earlier, but it's whatever. Doesn't really matter. Okay, Start pushing in here. Actually, let me just start pushing in here. It's much faster if you push in with the coalition soldiers, but it's fine. I don't wanna. No, this guy will need lots of support. When it comes to airstrikes, I get these upgrades. These I don't get because these upgrades, while reducing the risk of civilian casualties, they also increase the cooldown of the airstrikes. I don't want that. That's not what I get airstrikes for. I get airstrikes to pummel the insurgents and push into their zones at the end game. I don't really care about civilian casualties from a gameplay perspective, of course. As long as extend this guy, it's fine. Doesn't really matter, could have sent him home as well. We didn't really get security initiatives this game, it wasn't really necessary. Oh, that was a big mistake, don't do that obviously. Got a little ahead of myself there, but like I said, it doesn't really matter anymore. The most important thing I wanted to convey in this video was regarding the opening. Okay, that was weird. I think they just instantly died. Yeah, if insurgents attack a zone with garrisons in them, that zone, they will take at least one casualty upon fleeing with security checkpoints too. This upgrade doubles the effectiveness of the garrison bonus. It's also very good to get. Something very important, by the way, garrison bonuses don't stack. So even though visually here this guy's getting supported by 2 garrisons, he is in fact actually only getting the combat bonus once. Let's just threaten while we can. Let's deploy this guy. Let's get this. Just get all these cool military upgrades now. Let's start pushing in here. Let's start pushing in here. Just cover up, obviously. Let's start getting these upgrades so they antagonize the locals less. Okay, that's good. Let's move this guy up here now. This guy up here. That's it. Now they'll just have their desperate insurgent attack. I'll move the units over. Or if we're lucky, they won't get him a desperate insurgent attack. Let's just start talks now. Let's cover up. Relax the rules. New Air Force. And ban the insurgents. At this point I like to get drones because it just speeds up the process, because intel gathering is pretty slow in these zones. And that's why they're losing, or we're losing, aren't losing anymore. She's gonna send this guy home, even though the camp is still alive, and move this guy in. It's fine. Let's imprison all the insurgent leaders. And that's it. So now basically we can't spawn camps. They can only spawn camps in unstable zones and zones without soldiers, only if those 2 conditions are met. These zones are all stables, these zones all have soldiers. A garrison, by the way, also they can't spawn in zones with garrisons, so I can move this guy out. Let's get some more. Let's get these upgrades just in case. This one, just get highways as well. Ah, there's the desperate insurgent attack. Let's move them out of this zone, see where they go. Now I don't have any police, so I'll have to obviously do this by hand. So let's actually think. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull all of them, I think. That's unfortunate, but whatever, doesn't really matter. Just move them back afterwards. That is annoying though. Send this guy home again, and now just move back into these mountainous areas. Let me just get all these guys set up before I move in here, so there's no shenanigans. No need to make it complicated. Check this one. Keep rules unchanged. But at this point there's nothing left to do. I mean, I can spend my money, but it won't really do anything. So I won't. This now. It would be faster to move up like this, but the problem is if I do that, they can spawn a camp instantly. and then you just have more headaches if they then spawn into this zone or something. Quite annoying. Okay, at this point the peace process will go very fast. They have no more desperate attacks, can't spawn camps. It's over. Free peace deal, and that's it. That was a pretty clean one, fast one. I think it showcased very well the strength of the global support strategy there, 780 turns. I think I didn't play particularly precise, I made a few mistakes, such as buying the second education. That was very bad in my opinion, delayed the win by quite a lot, because I was forced to go jobs instead of being able to go to sanitation, and completely disregarding jobs. Yeah, so that's it for this episode. I hope if you have any questions about the core concepts, just ask me in the comments or on Discord. On the Rebel Link Discord, you can find it by googling. Exactly, and I hope you could learn something. So, see you next time. Bye bye.